Hey guys, so today I just want to give you an intro into 7th chords, show you some of the best shapes you can learn to play on guitar, and as well as that, how to practice them and actually incorporate them into your playing. So the reason why you might want to put 7th chords into your playing and into your sound is they are a lot more colorful than what's known as your triad chords. Now triad chords are all the chords you've probably learned that are like open chords, you know, like a C, D, E minor, even your bar chords, right? G major, G minor, C major, all those are triad chords because they only contain 3 notes, right? Even though you're playing more than 3 notes, it's the same 3 notes just repeated. So for example, in a G, right, we have a G, B, and D, then another G, then another B, then another G, right? So just G, B, and D, but stacked on top of each other. Now, 7th chords, they introduce a 4th note, which is why they give off that kind of jazzy sound that a lot of people associate it with. So for example, this would be a G major 7 versus a normal G major. Right, so in a G major 7, we have a G, B, and D, and an F sharp, right, which gives it that colorful sound. Anyway, so these chords are used all the time, R&B, blues, obviously jazz, but even rock and metal, just it's a really good tool to have in your tool belt when it comes to guitar playing. So, sorry, not just guitar playing, I'm sorry everyone else, piano players, well, any instrument that can play more than 1 note. So trumpets, saxophones, you're out of luck. Anyway, so if you have seen my video on bar chords and how to use those to play any chord, where you find the root note and then play the bar chord shape, depending on the tonality of the chord, this will probably make sense to you because it's going to be much of the same methods. Now, with 7th chords, because there's more notes involved and they're a bit more complex, there's actually 4 main tonalities we have to learn, as opposed to just 2 with our major and minor shapes. So the 4 tonalities are major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, and then minor 7, flat 5. Okay, so 4 different tonalities we got to learn, and these are the fundamental tonalities. Like if you learn these, you'll be able to pretty much play through any chart, regardless of what it is. So, and the way we're going to tackle it, just like the bar chords, is we're going to learn a shape for each of these on the E string with our root note on the E string, and also a shape for each of these tonalities with our root note on the A string. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. So I've got the shapes on the screen, and you'll notice the top 4 are the E string shapes, and it not only does it say that, but the red dot indicates the root note in the chord, which is all on the E strings, and then we have the A string shapes underneath that. But let's start off with the A string. So first of all, let's play these all on a G, okay, which is the 3rd fret on the E, which you hopefully know. So first chord is a major 7, so I put my first finger on the root note, and then it's like you're playing an A minor chord with your other 3 fingers. Cool. Another thing you can do is you can actually play an A minor chord like you would normally with your thumb on the root. That's another great way to play it. And you'll notice next to major 7 there's a triangle 7. This is another way that major 7 chords are notated on a chord chart, which you will come across when I show you some examples of those. The next one, minor 7. So you can go a few ways you can play this. You can just slam one finger on and play like this. Or you can use your first finger and then play like an A chord with those 3 fingers. Or what I like to do is middle finger on the root note, then I slam my 3rd finger over all those 3. And just quick side note, you'll notice I'm finger picking these as opposed to just strumming it with the pick. It tends to give them a bit more clarity, and you can start to get that separation between the bass note and the higher notes in the chord and get that cool kind of thing going, but up to you for now. So again, that also has a minor 7 next to it, because you will sometimes see minor 7 chords indicated as just a minus sign and then a 7, or a lowercase m and a 7. Now the next one is a dominant 7 chord. So this is just a 3-note chord. This voicing, well, it's a 4-note chord, but we're going to voice it with 3 notes. Cool, so I just go first finger, middle finger, 3rd finger, or you can go thumb and these 2. Again, up to you. And that will be indicated or shown as just a 7 chord. So for example, a G7 chord would be a G dominant 7. Or a G triangle 7, that would be a major 7. Right, don't get those confused. So if you see a lone 7, that means it's a dominant 7 chord. Now next up is a minor 7 flat 5, okay, which is, again is kind of like an A minor chord. It's like a major 7 chord, but you just move that A minor shape back 1 fret. So with major 7, we had that A minor shape up there. Now we just move it back 1, and that would be a minor 7 flat 5. And if you can't use your thumb, you can just do that with your middle finger. Whatever gets the job done. Okay, so those are the 4 tonalities, and I'll put a PDF to all this in the description, which will have a link to Google Drive where you can download it. I'm not going to spend too much time going over these shapes because chances are if you're starting to get into this more complex stuff, you can read a chord diagram. So the next shapes, let's just go through them quickly. So on the A string, okay, let's start these on the C note, which again is the 3rd fret on the A. We have major 7, okay, play it like that. Minor 7, which is the same as a minor bar chord, but we just take our pinky off. Right, a normal minor chord, minor 7. Right, dominant 7, okay, 7 chord, barring, and then I just have my 3rd finger on the 5th fret of the D, and then pinky on the 5th fret of the B. Alright, gives this sound. Then minor 7 flat 5 on the A. Looks like this. So I go 1st finger, 3rd finger, middle finger, then pinky. Cool? Okay, so those are the 4 shapes that you need to get familiar with, but I would not suggest that you try practice them all at once. I would start off just with the shapes on the E string, get super familiar with those, and then I would move on to all the shapes on the A string. Now, just like I did with the bar chords, I'm going to bring up some backing tracks on YouTube. Okay, we'll actually start with Blue Bossa. Here we go. So, here we have a chord chart. Okay, so I would suggest what you do first is go through and just play the chart with root notes all on the E string. So playing all your E string chord shapes. So starting off, we have C minor 7. So I find a C note on the E string and then play the minor 7 chord shape. Right? Now here you see what's known as a minor 6 chord. You can just play a minor 7 here. They're, for the most part, just interchangeable. So we're going to play a F minor 7. So F on the E string, minor 7 chord shape. Now we have that D with the circle and line through it, which is minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished. So I find a D, then play that chord shape, minor 7 flat 5 for the E. Then we have a G 7, which is dominant 7, right? Remember, as I said before, a 7 just means dominant 7. So I find a G, dominant 7, and then again a minor 6. We're just going to play minor 7. Now we have E flat minor 7, so E flat, minor 7, A flat, dominant 7, because it's just a 7, then D flat triangle, which is major 7, okay, so D flat, major 7, then D minor 7 flat 5, doing it with my thumb this time, G dominant 7, then C minor 7, then D half diminished or minor 7 flat 5, G dominant 7, right? So that was going through the whole chart, just playing the chords on the E string. Now if I actually put this on and play along with it, hopefully it's not too loud. 1, 2, 3. C minor 7, and again F minor 7, D half diminished or minor 7 flat 5, G dominant 7, C minor 7, playing it 2 different ways. E flat minor 7, A flat dominant 7, D flat major 7, D half diminished or minor 7 flat 5, G dominant 7, C minor 7, then a quick one, minor 7 flat 5, dominant 7, then back, right? So, pause. So you won't be able to do that straight away along with the music, you'll just have to take it slow. But do that with a few of these backing tracks, and I'll put links to some in the description. So let's look at one more. Let's look at Autumn Leaves. So here, again, we'll just go through it without the music. So A minor 7, D dominant 7, G major 7, C major 7, F sharp minor 7 flat 5, B7, E minor 6, which again we'll play at E minor 7, or you could just use open strings for that. Right, then we'll go to the next line, even though there's actually a repeat normally. F sharp minor 7 flat 5, B7. You'll notice I'm playing most of these with my thumb on the root note. That's how I tend to like doing it, because it frees up fingers for other things that you might want to add on eventually, other chord extensions. Then we have E minor 7, E minor 7 again, A minor 7, D dominant 7, G major 7, G major 7, F sharp minor 7 flat 5, B dominant 7. Then we have a quick little run here. So we got E minor 7, E flat dominant 7, D minor 7, D flat dominant 7. Right, cool little chromatic bass line. Whoops, what am I doing? E minor 7, E flat dominant 7, D minor 7, D flat minus D flat dominant 7. Right, then C major 7, which is the triangle. Then B dominant 7, then E minor 7, E minor 7. Right? And again, you would go through and play along with that, which I'm not going to do right now. So hopefully that is all clear so far. And then you're just going to do the exact same thing as you did with all those chord shapes, but now with the chord shapes on the A string. Okay, so just focusing on one thing at a time. So if I go through Blue Bossa again with the chord shapes on the A string, so C on the A string, then the minor 7 chord shape, then do it again, then F minor 7 onto the F, which is the 8th fret of the A string, like that, D minor 7 flat 5, D on the A string is the 5th fret, then I do the half diminished shape, or minor 7 flat 5, and then G dominant 7, and then C minor 7. E flat minor 7, which is the 6th fret, A flat dominant 7 all the way to the 11th, then D flat major 7, which would be this shape, D minor 7 flat 5, G dominant 7, then C minor 7, D half diminished, then G dominant 7, back to C. Right, that would be that whole chart on the A string. Cool, so again, do this with some of the backing tracks I put in the link for, or just find any. As long as you have a backing track that has a chord diagram to go with it, and preferably like something jazzy tends to be good because it uses lots of different chords. If you do other things, there might not be that much variation, so you're not learning how to use it in lots of different contexts, how to use the chord shapes in different areas. So that's a really good foundation, being able to play through these chord diagrams with the root note on the E string and the A string. But what you eventually want to be able to do is combine both, okay? And this is what you would do more realistically if you're actually playing these in the band situation. So a really good way to do that is I like dividing the fretboard up a bit. Again, I went through this exact same process with my major and minor bar chord lesson. But let's say, okay, Blue Bossa, I'm going to play it with only the root note happening between the 0 or the open string and the 8th fret. Okay, so this will force me to have to use root notes built on different strings, because I won't be able to play all these root notes just on the E string within those frets. Okay, so the C, right, I'm going to start off, I'll do it now. I'll start it off with a C on the A string, right, because I can't use the 8th fret. Right, then for my F minor 7, I'm going to go to this F on the E string. Now for this D half diminished, I'm going to have to go to this D here. Then G dominant 7, I'm going to use this G on the E string, and then C minor back on this C on the A string. Right, then E flat minor 7, I'm going to go to this E flat up here, then A flat, okay, A flat on the E string, then D flat major 7, D flat 4th fret on the A string. See, I don't go A flat then all the way up to D flat on the E string. Right, much easier to do that. Then D half diminished, G, dominant 7, C minor 7, then D, G. Right? Cool, so you would do that, again, just playing through the charts within those parameters. So not starting your root note past the 8th fret, for example, is a good starting point. Then what you want to do, this is the last step, is the exact same thing, but now you want to use the upper part of the fretboard. So for example, make it that you can't start your root note below the 5th fret. Okay, so you'll have to play all your chords in more of this area. So having a go at that, so I'd play my C minor 7 on the 8th fret now of the E string, as opposed to the 3rd fret of the A. Then my F minor 7, I'd play on this F on the 8th fret of the A. Then D half diminished, minor 7 flat 5, I'd play on the 10th fret of the E. Then G7, 10th fret of the A. Then again back to my C on the E. Alright, then E flat minor 7, 11th fret of the E, A flat 7, 11th fret of the A, and then D flat major 7, 9th fret on the E, then D minor 7 flat 5, G dominant 7, back to my C, then D, G. Right? So by doing this, by cutting off certain areas of the fretboard, you will just really be able to visualize where these chords are and have ultimate freedom basically into where you want to play them. So hopefully this was making sense. Hopefully you've got something out of it and you have some ideas of how to practice these. Again, just be patient with the stuff. You're not going to pick it up straight away. There's a lot to learn with this. I mean, you've got 8 different chord shapes. You need to be familiar with your notes on your E and A string, obviously. But if you go hard at this, in a couple of weeks, you'll be able to play through these probably without too much difficulty, but it obviously varies from individual to individual. But as always, thanks for watching. Links to all of this stuff will be in the description, to the PDF and whatnot, and I'll see you next time.